Welcome to the third chapter of Spica tutorial series. In this chapter, we will create a function and monitor function logs. Let's start with creating a function. First, we define a name and description to our function. Name and description will be displayed on the list view. These fields are our function's metadata. Then we set a timeout and language for our function. Timeout means the function will be terminated when the execution time reaches to timeout. For example, this function will be terminated a minute after we trigger if the executing this task takes more than a minute. This is an important metadata because you can optimize your hardware usage with timeout. Then we write our function into the code section. There are different types of triggers and all of them pass different parameters to function. While HTTP trigger passes the request and response object to function, bucket trigger and database trigger will pass the change parameter. You can see every trigger type under the triggers section. We can create multiple triggers for multiple tasks in a function. There are explanations for each trigger we set up. Let's try bucket trigger with insert action type. This means when we add an entry to the bucket, this function will be executed. To see function logs, you can click the logs icon which places on the top right of left hand side menu. Function logs will be listed here real time, so when a function leaves a log, we will see the log in here without refreshing the page. You can see the change object which passed by bucket trigger and the database trigger at the same time. Since we set up bucket trigger and database trigger for the products bucket, we will see two logs when we add an entry to the products bucket. Scheduler trigger means a cron job. In this example, scheduler trigger will work every minute and leave a log. Let's try HTTP trigger now. We can run the function by sending a GET request to base URL /API/fnexecute/defined path, which is HTTP trigger for now. You can see the request object which passed by HTTP trigger here. You can also enable sidecar log view here to monitor your function faster in development. If there is something wrong in our function, the system will throw an error. We can see errors by enabling the Show Error toggle. We can disable any trigger in a function file. When we disable a trigger, the task will not be executed since the trigger will not work, and the response status will be 404. If we need any third-party dependency, we can import them in Dependencies section. Let's use our official Bucket package from npm. You can see details about our JavaScript package in our example project tutorials. To put an abstraction on function module, we can add environment variables to our function file. This is useful when we prepare a function for non-technical users or pre-built assets. You can reach the environment variables with using process variable, which will be passed by the function module. You completed this chapter now. To learn more about the function module in Spica, you can visit spicaengine.com/docs.